Hi everyone, this is Chris Cavazzini, and this is my presentation of my final research paper. I'm going to be doing a video for my research paper as trying to be more comfortable about being on camera, and I think the video discussions have really helped, and I'm going to try and put together a good presentation of around 10 minutes that will be thorough, will support my thesis, and will of course have plenty of primary sources which is required. But in my case, I'm doing not the Battle of Lexington and Concord. I'm doing the aftermath. I'm discussing the aftermath and what happened within the media of the time. Um, Before the battle, there's the varying degrees of what historians think that the percentage of colonials that were in favor of the revolution, and it's anywhere from 15 to 20 or 15 to 20%, 15 to 30%. I'm going to go with about 20%. There was about 35 to 50% that were loyalists, and the rest were undecided, as we would call voters today. But I think the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the media reaction and how they not promoted, but how they kind of described the battle as brutal, as very one-sided towards the militia in this case, would help to sway public opinion in the direction of revolution. In my analysis of in my paper to prove my thesis, I'll be, like I said, using plenty of primary sources through newspapers, pamphlets of the day, such as Common Sense, sermons by the clergy of the day, to prove out my point that the Patriot media, let's call it, was definitely working overtime, working to change the minds of the colonists, to try and get them to favor an actual revolution or the revolution. The many historians do have determined that after Lexington and Concord, the percentage of colonists that were in favor of the revolution went up to between 30 and 45%. And before, you know, a lot of colonists thought reconciliation was best. They still saw themselves as British citizens, and Lexington and Concord helped to change that drastically. So the reason I chose this topic for my research paper is the significance of Lexington and Concord being the first battle where there was bloodshed between militia and the British regulars. It was basically a cauldron ready to boil over before. There was a lot of tenseness between the colonists, obviously, and the British. There were certain acts of instigation, such as the Stamp Act, the Tea Tax, and then, of course, the Boston Massacre from in 1770. So one interesting things I found out in my research was the incredible organization that the colonials had at the time, and I never had any idea of how the different committees of correspondence worked to make sure that word spread, that they had runners that would run the news stories from town to town and up and down the East Coast. The Post Road was a very major kind of highway of information between Boston down to Newport, through Connecticut, down to New York, then eventually Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and down to the Virginia and the Carolinas as well. It wasn't through the Post Road, but it was through the networks of the media or the correspondence that they had. So, all this led to the wave of patriotism throughout the colonies. The militia from the surrounding towns would join in the fight, bringing I think the eventual amount of militia in the area or on the march to Boston was around 4,000, led to the Second Continental Congress and the appointment of General Washington. Thank you very much.